With pitchers and catchers reporting in less than 2 weeks, I think it's about time for some opening day roster projection.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're projecting what the Rangers roster will look like on opening day. Some troublesome spots, some chalked up spots, and a rotation that I definitely think needs to be looked into more heavily. Before we get into all of that, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Now, we are less than 60 days away from opening day. A lot of things will happen between now and then, but with the Rangers roster looking, most of their offseason moves are pretty much done. I don't see any, dramatic moves upcoming. I don't see any more trades happening, despite a report, not a report, guess that we'll talk about more in the third segment once we actually get into who I'm pretty darn sure is going to be on this roster come opening day. Will this roster look different than my projection? No. Surely I will be 100% right in all of these picks. Surely I won't be proven wrong by baseball. That's never happened before, and surely it won't happen again. But let's go ahead and start with the infield. The hitters, I feel like this is pretty chalk. I feel like I'm going to bat 1,000 on these picks, barring injury. Now, if there's an injury, then I think there's definitely some debate as to who is going to make the opening day roster, but I'm also baking in some first alternates. So if there is an injury, then I can have my backup and say, see, even if I got this wrong, I didn't actually get it wrong, but I might still get it wrong. Let's look at the infield. First base, Jake Burger. Pretty obvious spot for Jake Burger. The Rangers traded for him. A couple of prospects who I think will be maybe fine big leaguers, but Jake Burger is already a fine big leaguer, going to be here for quite some time. Hopefully the Rangers can keep him healthy, playing first base every day, hitting a bunch of bombs, and really strengthening the middle of this lineup. At second base, it's going to be Marcus Semien. That's it for 160 155 games maybe this year. We'll see how many games he plays. I doubt that Semien will be playing all 162 this year, as he is getting a little bit older. To try and keep him off his feet, I imagine he will get some more days off. At shortstop, it will be the big man, Corey Seager, the 2-time World Series MVP. Hopefully, eventually AL MVP, maybe even 3-time World Series MVP. Could be the first position player to ever win 3 of those awards. Would love to see that. Then over at the hot corner, third base, we have Josh Jung. I feel like this starting infield is pretty chalk, especially the middle infield, especially first base. Third base, I feel, is also pretty chalk, assuming that Josh Jung is healthy. Keep him in bubble wrap. Spring training has not been kind to him the last few years. Last year he made it through spring training okay, but then game number 4 broke his wrist. That completely derailed his entire season. He has broken his foot in spring training. He has had a shoulder injury in spring training. Heck, even in 2023, when he made it out completely healthy, he got in a car crash and totaled his truck in 2023. Thankfully, he was okay. But protect Josh Jung, get him healthy all the way through spring training, and he will be the opening day third baseman. The backup infielders, Josh Smith, Zeke Duran, pretty chalk. I'd imagine those guys will get a decent amount of playing time this year, especially Zeke Duran, with him being the only right-handed bench bat that the Rangers will have. First alternate for the infield, Jonathan Ornelas, one of the only guys on the 40-man roster. He spent some time in the big leagues last year. Very good defensive shortstop, second baseman, third baseman, can play the outfield. I think that he is going to get some time in the big leagues this year, but I don't think he's going to be there for opening day. Now, the catchers, Jonah Heim, Kyle Higashioka. Pretty simple. Those two are going to split time. I don't know exactly how they're going to decide to divvy it up because both of them are better hitting against left-handed pitching than they are against right-handed pitching, or at least Jonah Heim was last year. He had a little bit of changed splits from his switch-handed hitting. Kyle Higashioka is a right-handed hitter who mashes against lefties, so maybe we'll see more Higgy starts against lefties, but the playing time is going to be pretty equal. And you better hope that both of these guys are healthy for the whole season, because the first alternate at this point is Matt Watley. Sam Huff was claimed on waivers by the San Francisco Giants. He is no longer here. He ran out of minor league options. The Rangers did not want to keep protecting him, did not want to have him on the big league roster because he was just kind of a quad A player. Just not quite good enough to be a big leaguer, but a little bit better than AAA. And then even last year, he was just kind of a decent AAA player. And, after years of a lot of hopes on Sam Huff, alas, the experience is done with Sam Huff in Texas. So Matt Watley is not a good hitter, a pretty good defensive catcher, but I think if the Rangers did have an injury, they'd probably sign somebody with big league experience. I don't think that we would see anything too flashy, but you better hope that both these guys are healthy because that is the position with the least helpful insurance policy. In the outfield, Wyatt Langford, Evan Carter, Adolis Garcia. Where exactly they fit in, I'm assuming Evan will play most of the games in center field. You really hope that he can hit lefties well, or at least hit lefties okay. How many games Evan ends up playing this year? Who knows? He says that he feels fully healthy and is not worried about his back. I am still worried about his back. I'm sure you, the listener, are probably also still worried about Evan Carter's back, but he is doing full baseball activities, no limitations on him whatsoever, so that is a good sign for him. Hopefully, this back stuff can just be a nice little footnote when we're talking about him in the Rangers Hall of Fame someday, 15, 20 years down the road after he's had an incredible and very, very long and healthy career. Then, Adolis Garcia, right field, Wyatt Langford probably playing most of his games in left. I'm assuming that we'll see quite a bit of of Wyatt in center field against left-handed starting pitching because the other outfielder who will be starting, except starting as a DH, not an outfielder, is Joc Pederson. I have no idea how many games the Rangers are going to end up playing Joc in the outfield. I'm hoping it's less than 5, fewer than 5, excuse me, in my grammar. But I think one of Evan Carter and Joc Pederson needs to hit lefties at least okay, if not well. I think Pederson is the more likely option for that. I'm hoping that it's both of them because both these guys are going to be playing most every day. And you look at your right-handed bench bats, it's just Zeke Durant. That's it. So the Rangers, if they're going to platoon Evan Carter and Joc Pederson, then that's 2 spots to fill, and Zeke Durant cannot play 2 spots at one time. And in terms of your other, maybe plug Zeke Durant out there in a corner outfield, put Wyatt in center field, and then at DH, you do whoever is not catching between Jonah Heim and Kyle Higashioka, but then that's a lot more wear and tear on both of those guys who you'd like to be keeping healthy. Also, if their bats are, if Jonah's bat is like it was last year, you don't necessarily want your DH spot to be going to that. I'd assume that Joc Pederson is going to be platooning less here than he was in Arizona. He'll get more of a chance to hit against left-handed pitching than he did before. But we'll see. He's never been great against lefties. He was okay in a small sample size, pretty decent actually last year in a small sample size against left-handed pitching, but for his career, he's never been that good at hitting lefties. Thankfully, there are not all that many lefties in the big leagues, so we'll get much more of a split of Evan Carter and Joc Pederson, and whatever happens when they face a left-handed starting pitcher, we'll see. We'll figure that out when we get there. And the only bench outfielder, alas, the Travis Jankowski run is done in Texas. Maybe he'll come back after next year. Who knows? Who knows where Travis Jankowski will land, but the Rangers' backup outfielder will be Leody Taveras. I imagine he'll get a decent chunk of playing time, maybe maybe once a week, maybe twice a week. Not a whole lot. It would be really nice because Leote is a switch hitter, and to have that guy who can hit against left-handed pitching would be nice. But Leote's splits have been significantly better hitting against right-handed pitching than they have against left-handed pitching. So that would be a nice answer if Leote could just mash against lefties, and then if you're going to do that platoon, you put Leote in center field on the days when Evan Carter's not playing, and then you solve one of those problems, and then Zeke Duran is your DH when you're facing a left-handed starting pitcher, so Joc Pederson can still be on the bench and not have to hit too much against lefties. I don't know. We'll see when we get there. If Leote is your fourth outfielder, that's a solid fourth outfielder to have. If there is some kind of an injury or regression, if Evan Carter has to miss some time with his back again, if Leote Taveras is your center fielder, that's fine. It's not ideal at this point, but it's fine. This team will be just fine. And then the first alternate, the only outfielder on the 40-man roster that is not going to be on the opening day roster is Dustin Harris. Made his big league debut last year, got his first hit, his first extra base hit, his first home run, all in game 162. Love to see that. I'm excited to see what Dustin Harris can do this year. I'd imagine he'll play somewhere in the range of 10 to maybe 25 games if there's no major injury, but I think he's just about ready to be, if he's a fourth outfielder, I think that is a solid role for him. Maybe he'll end up being a starting everyday outfielder at some point in his career, but opening day is probably not when that's going to happen. Coming up, when we look at this rotation, what it's going to look like. Are there going to be 5 starting pitchers? Are there going to be 6 starting pitchers? Who's going to be the odd man out? And what the heck to do with this bullpen? All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Gametime. Attending NFL playoff games is an unforgettable experience that brings fans together. It is such an awesome experience. It would be nice if the Cowboys were in some of these NFL playoff games, but going to any kind of playoff game, whether it's a basketball playoff game, whether it's a hockey playoff game, which is electric, baseball playoff games are electric, or even if you don't want to go to a playoff game or any game whatsoever, you want to go to get some tickets to a concert, to a theater, to whatever kind of thing you're looking to get tickets to, Gametime is the place to get those tickets. They make the hassle, none. They make no hassle. They make it so easy. They make it so convenient, and they've got great deals all the time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, let's get to the pitching side, the one with some questions. I feel very confident that I went 13 for 13 on who the Rangers hitters will be on opening day. I'm not as confident I'm going to go 13 for 13 with the pitchers that the Rangers will have on their opening day roster. But let's start with the starters, because that's just fun wordplay. Jacob deGrom, going to be starting opening day, assuming, again, all of these are assuming health. Just say that about all the pitchers in general, in basically any context. You talk about any pitcher, assuming they're healthy, which is a medium-sized assumption for basically all of these starters. You start with Jacob deGrom, you have Nathan Eovaldi as your number 2. Then is where it gets tricky. Who will be the number 3 in this rotation? Let's say Cody Bradford, Kumar Rocker, and then Tyler Mahle as the 5th starter, but I'm going to include just one more in Jon Gray, as the Rangers might end up going with a 6-man rotation. I'll do another episode about that, more closely about why they should do a 6-man rotation, why I think it makes the most sense for them. But just for the sake of this, one of these guys is going to be the odd man out. I don't know who exactly. It might end up being Rocker or Bradford. Those are the 2 that I think are most likely to be the odd man out. I don't see the Rangers trading away Mahle or Gray because, in reality, what will probably decide who's the odd man out of this group is who's hurt. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. Spring training, there's never usually that many things that are exciting in the positive way. I mean, last year, Wyatt Langford having the spring training to end all spring trainings was really, really fun and really exciting. Unfortunately, it didn't end up meaning all that much, other than there's no way that the Rangers could have started him in the minor leagues to start the season. But most of spring training is just watching every pitcher update, watching every bullpen, watching every single bit of news of, okay, please just get these guys healthy to the start of the season. And this is where most of the injuries to pitchers happen, is this buildup, this ramp-up process. That's why spring training is so long. The hitters are ready within basically 3 weeks. That's why they show up after pitchers and catchers by a decent chunk of weeks. 10 days plus or so. But the whole point is that these guys are injury prone. They're older. They're on the older side. I mean, Jacob deGrom is heading into his age 37 season. Nathan Eovaldi is in his mid-30s. Jon Gray, Tyler Mahle, both of them are past 30. Kumar Rocker, I don't have to tell you about all the injury history that he has and how healthy these guys can be throughout the season. I mean, we'll see. I think for me, most of the six-man rotation comes from just keeping these guys healthy, and I think there's going to be a pretty heavy innings limit on what Kumar Rocker can bring. If everyone's healthy, if everyone were just a full go and this was just a question of talent, I think Kumar Rocker would be the Rangers' number 3 starter. I think that would be pretty chalk. He might end up being, at some point this season, the Rangers' second best starter behind only deGrom. That's the kind of upside that this guy has. Now, will he get there this year? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? He got so much better so quickly last year that I'm not betting against this guy. But Eovaldi is a veteran and is consistent and is really freaking good. So passing him in the rotation order, I don't think will happen. Bradford was so good last year and very consistent from the time that he was healthy. But he also missed a big chunk of the season. He's not a guy who throws very, very hard, so you would think theoretically that would make him more durable, but the back issue that we thought was a back issue then ended up being a rib issue, or maybe it was a back issue. That just was a messy issue that kept him out basically half the season. You hope that that's done. You hope that that was just a 1-year issue, but again, he's a pitcher, so there are always concerns. Not to mention Tyler Mahle and Jon Gray, who have also had more than their fair share of injury concerns. I mean, last year, Gray was not very durable, multiple different trips on the IL, and it wasn't all that inspiring when he was on the hill, outside of when he was coming in relief, where he looked absolutely fantastic. Mahle was coming back from Tommy John surgery and then had 3 starts and felt some fatigue in his shoulder, so the Rangers shut him down. So they got, 15? Was it even 15 innings out of him last year? Which was about what they got out of Jacob deGrom. And deGrom, who knows what the Rangers are going to get in terms of number of starts and the duration of those starts, how many innings he's going to be able to give them. You're hoping that Eovaldi can just be just as durable as he's been the last couple of years, give you somewhere between 150 and 170 innings, make 25 to 30 starts. And he's one of the few that I feel most confident about doing that, him and Bradford. But the rest of these guys, I mean, all 3 of these 4 guys are 1 year removed from coming back from. This is their first year fully healthy coming back from Tommy John surgery. deGrom, Rocker, and Mahle, all of them similar timeline. So how many innings each of them can give you is up in the air at this point, and so that kind of will impact what kind of relievers you want. Usually it'll require the Rangers to have probably more guys that are multi-inning guys. We'll talk about that in just a second. We look at who's going to make this bullpen, but I would think a 6-man rotation is heavily under consideration. Maybe the Rangers just start Rocker in the minor leagues and kind of are more able to limit his innings and workload that way, and then call him up to the big leagues whenever he's ready to take on that full load every 5th day of giving you 5, maybe 6 innings. I don't know how many starts he'll be allowed to go more than 5 innings. We didn't go any more than 5 innings in any starts last year. I think that would be pretty well on the table of him, not going more than 5 innings unless the Rangers are in the middle of a playoff chase or they're in the actual playoffs. If the Rangers get to the playoffs, I think all bets are off for limiting pretty much any of these guys in terms of their innings and their workload. But we'll cross that bridge if we get there, which I'm hoping that we do. And the first alternate for all of this, outside of the obvious long man, whoever is the long man in the pen, just jumping in the rotation, I think it's Adrian Hauser. I mean, he had a really bad year with the Mets last year, but the Rangers signed him to a minor league deal with an invite to Major League Spring Training. I think that Hauser is a little bit ahead in the pecking order of Jack Leiter, but Jack Leiter will be getting some starts in the big leagues this year. I feel very confident in that prediction. Now, how many of those and how effective he is, who knows at this point, but I feel like a 6-man rotation for now is the best way to go about this, and that's assuming that all 6 of these guys are healthy come opening day, which, if they are, is a very, very good sign that things might be breaking right for the Rangers in 2025. Coming up, we'll look at this bullpen and someone else's roster projection that I have one real question about. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, and endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. You want to look at those coin toss odds right now. It's heated. It's a heated matchup. Heads, -104. Tails, also -104. I mean, the odds are basically 50-50. Who could have predicted that for a coin toss? Right now, the Chiefs are favored. That spread is -1.5 points. Eagles +1.5 points. -110 if you want to pick the Chiefs. Also -110 if you want to pick the Eagles. Very, very close Super Bowl we are supposed to have here. So download the app, head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Now let's look at this bullpen. Always the biggest question mark heading into any roster projection, but I feel like this one, there are fewer question marks than there were last year. I mean, last year at the top end, it was pretty obvious that there was going to be a battle for closer between Jose Leclerc, David Robertson, and Kirby Yates. Kirby Yates ended up winning that and running away with it. But right now, at closer, there are some question marks. But there are more guys that I'm sure will be on this opening day roster, again, assuming they are healthy, than there were last year. Because the Rangers signed 5 different pitchers, 5 different relievers, 4? There are 5 new relievers, one of them they traded for, and I feel pretty darn confident in saying that all of those guys are going to be on the opening day roster, starting with Chris Martin, the most expensive of the not very expensive options that the Rangers signed in free agency. All of these, I think, are really darn good deals and pitchers who I think are going to be pretty solid. I don't know how many of them are going to be great, but I think all of them are going to be at the very least pretty solid, and 1 or 2 of them are going to be really good. Chris Martin, as of right now, is going to be the Rangers closer. Robert Garcia, who the Rangers got from the Nationals in the Nathaniel Lowe trade, is going to be one of the setup men. I think he will also vie with Chris Martin for some of those save opportunities. Jacob Webb, Sean Armstrong, Hobie Miller, the trio that the Rangers signed, none of them for more than $2.5 million. All of them, I think, really, really solid signings for the Rangers. Those guys are going to be your high leverage to medium leverage guys. Having 2 lefties who are also good against righties in Robert Garcia and Hobie Milner, I think it's very helpful for this pen construction. Guys who can go multiple innings if you need them. Milner especially. Armstrong has shown an ability to do that. Jacob Webb has also shown an ability to do that. But I feel like all of those guys, all of those 5 guys of the 7 that will be in this pen, I feel pretty confident that all of them are going to be in there. Whereas last year, I felt confident about picking 4 maybe guys out of the bullpen that were for sure going to make that opening day roster. But then the next options, Jesse Chavez, who the Rangers signed to a minor league deal with a major league invite to spring training. I'm surprised that Jesse Chavez didn't get a guaranteed major league deal from any other team, but hey, I'm glad that he's here. I feel pretty confident that if he's healthy and, looks anywhere close to what he was last year or the year before that, I mean, the last 3 years, he's been a really, really solid reliever. He's a guy who can give you multiple innings. He can be more of that mop-up man of, if one of the starters is only able to give you 3 or 4 innings in a start, he can bridge you those middle 2-3 innings to get you to your back-end guys if your team is in a position to win, or if the starter goes 5 innings and the Rangers are getting blown out, then he's a guy who could mop up multiple innings as well in a losing effort. That is a valuable arm to have, and I think Chavez is going to play that role really, really well. And the last guy in this pen, Dane Dunning. I think that he is going to, for sure, make the Rangers opening day roster again, barring any health concerns. Him being the Rangers logman is a good spot for him to be in. Now, last year in the rotation, he just had a really, really bad year. Coming off of a 2023 where he was fantastic. He started the year as the Rangers longman, came into several of those games where Jacob deGrom left early and pitched admirably, and then the first half of the season, he just looked incredible. The second half wasn't quite as good, but still was very durable, was the Rangers' innings leader in 2023, and is the Rangers' pitcher of the year for the year that the Rangers won the World Series, the first ever World Series title. That's something that Dane Dunning will be a legend for in Texas Rangers lore for all time. Now, how effective will he be this year? He is going to be the first man to jump into this rotation if there is some kind of an injury, I guess multiple kinds of injuries to this 6-man rotation. Heck, even if one person does get hurt, if, say, Tyler Mahle isn't quite ready to go on opening day, I wouldn't be surprised if they put Dane Dunning in that rotation and then made it still a 6-man rotation just to keep the rest of those guys healthy for the long term. Who knows how they'll actually go about it once they get to opening day, but I've got to think that that's something that they're considering. And I feel pretty confident that this, if it were me, and with all the information that I've got and where we are right now, this is how I would set up this roster, with the first alternate being Mark Church. I think Mark Church will play a medium to large size role in this Rangers bullpen at points this season. Maybe some of these guys, end up falling off. I'm sure one of these acquisitions in Chris Martin or Robert Garcia or Jacob Webb, Sean Armstrong, Hobie Milner, one of them's probably not going to be all that great. And the Rangers might end up cutting bait with them. And that's the good part of signing relievers for not all that much money. If they are just terrible, you can move on and just bite the bullet. If you sign a guy for $1.5 million and he ends up not being very good, and you have some better options in the minor leagues to replace that, that's fine. No harm, no foul. And if they end up being great, then what an awesome value. What an incredible deal that you made, like the Rangers did with Kirby Yates. But they're trying to do that more scattershot, less upside than Yates had. Maybe higher floor than Yates had, because Yates' floor was mainly just about injuries. And thankfully, he was not injured at all last year. Would have been nice if he was back here. Even on that $14 million deal would have been very nice, because just that one more arm in this bullpen would have made me feel much, much better about the overall health of this pen. But the reason I decided to do this roster projection today as opposed to on Monday, I saw one come out from Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News. Now, totally respect Evan, great at what he does, but there was a line early on in his roster projection talking about the Rangers making another move of just completely salary dumping Tyler Mahle to get more financial flexibility, to get them under the CBT, which not only doesn't make sense, it's also, they're already there. The Rangers are already $6 million under the CBT from the most, the highest projection. Spotrac has them $18 million under the CBT. And if the Rangers are just salary dumping Tyler Mahle, then why the heck did they sign him in the first place? It's like ownership saying, oh, actually, I don't like how much we spent. Let's just go ahead and dump this player for nothing. Because the Rangers would not be getting anything for Tyler Mahle. He has not been durable the last 2 seasons. He's been even less durable than Jacob deGrom. And when he's on the hill, he's not nearly as good as Jacob deGrom when he's healthy. One of these guys is going to be hurt. The Rangers are not the Mariners for many reasons. First of which, they have actually been to a World Series and won one. But the second of which is that they're not going to have a bunch of homegrown starting pitchers, a bunch of healthy starting pitchers. The Mariners have been the best team in baseball at keeping their starters healthy. I don't know how they do it, what magic sauce they've got to get basically all of their guys. Go look over the last 3 seasons, how many of their starters have been able to give you 25, 30 starts, 180 to 200 innings. It's insane. It's absolutely insane how healthy and durable all of them have been and how homegrown and good all of them have been. The Rangers don't have that. They have a bunch of older guys and a bunch of even the younger guys with question marks about their health. And one of these starters of Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, Kumar Rocker, Cody Bradford, Tyler Mahle, Jon Gray, one of them is almost certainly going to miss a chunk of at least 2 months, maybe multiple of them. Maybe one of them is going to miss the entire season. You don't know. And you don't have enough depth to come up and fix that if you trade away one of these guys like Mahle or Gray, and you will not be getting anywhere near equal value in return. And you just can't do that in this contention window and pretend like you want to win. This is a top 5 media market. You just signed a new TV deal, a new streaming deal, all of this stuff. And if you want to trade away that depth, which is precarious at best, unless you're really, really sure that Rocker is just going to be full go, 30 starts, 180 innings, that would be insane to assume. It would be insane to assume that about any of these pitchers, or you feel very, very confident in Jack Leiter just coming up and being that number 3 starter that everyone hoped he would be after being pretty far away from it last year. Big jump, but not quite ready to jump into that rotation and be an everyday starter and be effective in that role. It would just be completely insane, and just caping for this ownership group to spend less money, to unspend the money that they've already spent, is just so dumb, so frustrating, and just downright insulting to the fan base of saying, oh no, we got a cap for our billionaire owner who won't spend this money, who can't possibly afford to spend this money. He can, and he did. And undoing it would be just downright silliness. That's going to do it for this week's shows. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.